Good morning, everyone. I am Javeria, a student at the University of West London. Today, I'll be discussing the IASB framework and some accounting standards with a focus on how it enhances financial reporting. The IASB framework is a set of principles and guidelines designed to ensure consistency, transparency, and comparability in financial statements globally. It oversees different projects and analyzes what is more important, example, financial instrument revenue leases. Its members are responsible for the development of publication of IFRS standards who are appointed by the trustees of IFRS Foundation through a rigorous process. It serves as the foundation for developing and interpreting international financial reporting standards. Its benefits are one key benefit of IASB is that it provides a unified approach to accounting standards, that is, it allows investors, regulators, and other stakeholders to easily compare financial performances across different companies and countries. By following the IASB guidelines, businesses can enhance credibility and trust with their financial reports. For example, if a company in Europe and in Asia both report under IASB standards, their financial statements will be presented in a similar format. This enables international investors to make informed decisions without the confusion of different local accounting methods. The transparency and accountability of this framework emphasize on the importance of providing clear, relevant information about a company's financial position, which supports in better decision making and corporate governance. Next comes IAS 36 or impairment of assets. One can recognize and measure impairment losses for both tangible and intangible assets. It ensures that assets are carried at no more than the recoverable amount. That is, amount that can be recovered through use or sale. Assets are impaired if its recoverable amount is below the value currently shown in the statement of financial position, that is, the asset's current carrying amount. In this, the recoverable amount is taken as the higher of fair value less cost to sell, also known as NRV, and value in use, which is the present value of future cash flows expected from the asset. Any assets are excluded from the IAS 36, such as inventory, construction contracts, etc. Cash flows related to financing activity and income tax should not be applied. Indications of impairment. Assets should be reviewed at each reporting date for signs of impairment. One such indicator of internal and external sources are obsolescence of asset, decreasing the market value of the asset. If there are no impairment, no action is required to be performed except for assets like goodwill, an intangible asset which has an indefinite useful life or which is not yet available for use. Example, consider a manufacturing company that owns machinery. If the market for its products declines, leading to reduced future cash flows, the company must assess whether the machinery's carrying value exceeds its recoverable amount. If it does, an impairment loss is recognized, reducing the asset's carrying value on the balance sheet. Its initial and subsequent measurement. When impairment is recognized, the asset is written down to its recoverable amount, that is, its new carrying amount. For subsequent measurement, the asset is carried at the lower amount and tested again if there are any changes in circumstances. Recognition and derecognition. If impairment is there, certain steps should be followed to recognize it. Recoverable amount should be calculated, asset written down to the recoverable amount. Impairment loss should be immediately recognized in the income statement. It is an exception if the asset is later recovered, that is, it reverses the previous gain taken to the revaluation surplus, which then increases the recoverable amount. The impairment loss can be reversed but only up to the original carrying amount before the impairment. Derecognition occurs when an asset is disposed of or when no future economic benefits are expected. Next comes IFRS 15 or non-current assets held for sale. It provides guidelines on how to account for assets that are available for sale or operations that have been discontinued. It ensures that assets are presented separately from other assets to give a clear picture of the financial position and performance of a business. It applies when assets are expected to be sold or classified as for sale rather than used in normal operations. For an asset to be classified as held for sale, that is, carrying amount can be recovered through sales rather than the ongoing use of the asset. Example, Greyhound decides to sell one of its factories. If the factory meets the criteria for being held for sale, it would be classified as such on the balance sheet and no longer depreciated. Any gain or loss from the sale would be recognized when the transaction occurs. Its initial and subsequent measurement. Before classification, it is followed as per IAS 16. At the initial stage of classification, the asset is measured at the lower of its carrying amount or fair value less cost to sell. No depreciation is charged. If the asset's fair value falls below the carrying amount, an impairment loss is recognized. For subsequent measurement, the asset is not depreciated and is revalued if there is any change in fair value. Recognition and derecognition. The asset is recognized as held for sale once it meets the following criteria. That is, it must be available for immediate sale in its current condition and its sale must be highly probable, that is, within 12 months. The management has a committed plan to sell. Derecognition occurs when the asset is sold or when the plan to sell is abandoned. For discontinued operations, it requires separate disclosure in the income statement showing the result of operations that have been discontinued and highlighting the gain or loss from the sale of the discontinued unit. Next I counting standard is IAS 21. It tells us on how to account for transaction and balances in foreign currencies and exchange rate fluctuations impact a company's financial statement. This standard ensures that financial statements reflect the correct value of the foreign currency transaction and foreign operations. It requires that foreign currency transactions be initially recorded at exchange rate prevailing at the date of the transaction. This ensures that the financial records reflect the correct amount in the reporting currency at the time of the transaction. Further, there are functional and presentation currencies. It is a currency. Functional currency is the currency that is the of the primary economic environment in which the company operates. Presentation currency are the currency in which the reporting entity uses for its financial statements, which can be any currency. Example: a UK-based company purchases goods from the US for $10,000 when the exchange rate is 1.3 GBP. The initial measurement in GBP would be $7,692. If the exchange rate changes to 1.35 GBP, the payment date, the company will recognize an exchange gain or loss due to the difference in exchange rates. Initial and subsequent measurement of IAS 21. Initially, foreign currency transactions are measured at the exchange rate on the transaction date. Subsequent measurement involves revaluing any foreign currency monetary items like receivables or payables at the exchange rate at the balance sheet date. With any exchange differences recognized in the profit or loss account, recognition and de-recognition. Foreign currency gains and losses must be recognized in the income statement, except for certain cases where they are recognized in equity. Example, in the case of foreign operation. De-recognition occurs when the foreign currency transaction is settled and any financial exchange final exchange differences are recognized in the income statement. Next is IFRS 15 or revenue from contract customers. It is designed so that the companies can recognize revenue in a way that it reflects the transfer of goods or services to customers at an amount that reflects the consideration to which they are entitled. It applies to all contracts with customers except for certain contracts like leasing and financial instruments. I will explain the five-step model of IFRS 15 for recognizing revenue with the help of an example. Let's take companies named Supercomputers that sells a 12-month subscription to a customer Matthew. The contract includes both the software license and technical support of $200 and $400. The steps are: first step, identifying the contract with the customer. That is, drafting an agreement between Matthew and Supercomputers for the license and technical support. Second step, identifying separate performance obligation within the contract. When what the company has promised to deliver. Here, the service is satisfied each month. Third step, determining the transaction price, the amount the company expects to receive. Here, the transaction is of $600. Allocating the transaction price to the performance obligation, that is, stand-alone selling prices, allocation of 200 towards license and 400 towards technical support. Last and fifth step, recognize revenue when a performance obligation is satisfied. That is, when control of the goods or service is transferred to the customer. In this scenario, software license of $200 should be realized on the purchase date, and the technical support should be recognized over time as and when provided. Next is its initial and subsequent measure. Initially, revenue is measured at the transaction price agreed in the contract, which could include variable amounts like discount or bonus. Subsequent measurement involves recognizing revenue as performance obligations are satisfied either over time or at a point of time, depending on the nature of the goods or services, such as contract revenue may vary with regard to any claim from the customer or reimbursements of costs not included in the contract or incentive payments, if any, toward the contractor, as the performance standard should have exceeded the customer's expectations. Recognition and derecognition. Revenue is recognized when the company satisfies a performance obligation by transferring control of the goods or services to the customer. Derecognition occurs when the performance obligation is fully satisfied and the company has transferred control and received the payment. Next is IFRS 16 or leases. IFRS 16 is one of the most recent newest accounting standards issued by the IASB. A lease is a form of finance, especially when the company can't raise its debt or equity finance. It requires companies to recognize most leases on the balance sheet, treating leases as assets and liabilities differing from the previous standard IAS 17, where operating leases were not recorded on the balance sheet. The goal of IFRS 16 is to increase transparency by recognizing economic impact of leases in the company's financial position. IFRS 16 applies to all leases except for short-term leases, that is 12 months or less, and leases of low-value assets. Example: suppose a company of leases office space for 5 years with annual lease payments of 50,000. On day one, the company recognized a right of use of $50,000 adjusted for any initial direct costs or prepayments and a lease liability of the present value of the future lease payments. Next comes its initial and subsequent measurement. At the start of the lease, the right of use is measured at the present value of the lease payment plus any initial direct cost. Subsequent measurement involves directing the right of use asset over the lease term and adjusting the lease liability for payments made while also recognizing interest on the lease liability. Recognition and derecognition. The recognition of the right of use asset and lease liability occurs at the commencement of the lease. Derecognition occurs happens when the lease ends or is terminated, at which point the right of use, asset, and lease liability are removed from the balance sheet. This concludes my presentation. Thank you for listening.